On a battlefield, during the final clash between the Demon Lord and the Great Hero, the two of them initially toy with each other, casually tossing around rocks as if the fight means nothing. But when the hero demands a real battle, everything changes. They both unleash their full power in a fight meant to end everything once and for all. The Great Hero uses his weapon art, the Dragon series, while the Demon Lord counters with attacks just as devastating. Their overwhelming powers begin to drain their energy. Exhausted, breathing heavily, they close the distance between them, and in one final moment, they stab each other at the same time. Both fall. As he dies, the hero smiles because it's finally over. In a new life at a new school, the hero, now named Blade, begins again. Blade quickly learns that people greet each other when they meet, so he decides that from now on, he'll live an ordinary life. Cheerful and full of energy, he walks through the school hallways greeting everyone, trying to make friends. Two girls notice him and find his behavior amusing. Thinking he must be a transfer student, they approach him. Blade happily introduces himself, not just to them, but to everyone he passes. Some call him weird, but he still manages to make friends. He's already made 4 friends, and now he's convinced that making 100 friends isn't impossible. Suddenly, the noisy hallway is interrupted by Ernest Flaming, the Academy's top student, known as the Empress. She scolds everyone, reminding them of the strict standards of the prestigious Rosewood Academy. Completely unfazed, Blade walks up and introduces himself to her as well. Ernest coldly explains that this academy only accepts aspiring heroes, people who aim to save the world. But Blade casually replies that he doesn't care about being a hero. He's just here to make friends. That only makes her angrier. Still smiling, Blade asks her to show him the way to the headmaster's office. Reluctantly, she takes him there, announcing him as some lost brat on the verge of tears, which couldn't be further from the truth. Inside the office, they're surprised to find the king sitting there instead of the headmaster. Ernest immediately bows, but Blade talks to him casually, which shocks her. She tries to force Blade to bow properly, but the king simply laughs and praises Ernest for her discipline and achievements. Then he reveals something surprising: he will be acting as the new headmaster. Ernest instantly switches her tone, becoming overly polite and flattering. But the king dismisses her, saying he needs to speak with Blade privately, something that irritates her even more. Once alone, Blade complains to the king for putting him in a bad position with Ernest. He asks what the king is doing there. The king tells him to reclaim his identity as the great hero. Blade refuses. He just wants to live a normal life. But the king insists. He talks about changing the academy's curriculum to continue training heroes. Blade argues there's no point, the Demon Lord is gone. However, the king believes that both the hero and the Demon Lord perished together, and that the hero's power has now been reborn within Blade. Blade thinks the king is completely delusional. Later, in the advanced class, Blade and Ernest meet again. Ernest refuses to believe Blade belongs there. She accuses him of getting in through connections, saying the academy doesn't accept half-hearted people. Blade responds seriously. He is serious about making 100 friends. As he continues introducing himself to everyone, Ernest gets even more frustrated. When she yells at him, Blade casually pats her on the head. Blushing in anger, she attacks him, but he effortlessly dodges. Just then, Sophie arrives and informs them that the instructor has called everyone to assemble. Blade immediately tries to introduce himself to her too, but Sophie is focused only on orders. Still, she tells him her name, and he happily shakes her hand. Ernest then challenges Blade. She asks the instructor for permission to test his strength. She brings him to an enchanted metal target that only advanced students can cut through. She declares that if Blade fails, he must admit he entered unfairly and leave the academy. Blade calmly asks how many levels of power exist. Flustered, Ernest says 3. So Blade prepares a second-level attack. The moment he uses the Dragon series, everyone is stunned. He completely obliterates the target, and the shockwave is so powerful that it sends Ernest flying, even tearing her clothes in the process, and forces everyone else to their knees, except Sophie. Shaken, Ernest asks who he really is. Blade simply replies, "I'm just ordinary." At lunchtime, Blade sits next to Ernest and calls his other friends over, but no one joins him. Ernest explains that the table is reserved for her, and everyone is too scared to sit there. Unbothered, Blade happily eats his curry. Ernest admits she was wrong about him entering unfairly. Blade doesn't even remember what she's talking about, which frustrates her even more since it's been bothering her. She apologizes. Blade smiles and thanks her instead, saying she actually helped him make friends. When she asks who, he points directly at her. Flustered, she blushes intensely, but doesn't deny it. She accepts being his friend. That night, in her room, Ernest undresses and smiles, happy that she made her first real friend. But suddenly, her sword begins to tremble. She remembers her childhood when she first touched the sword. It spoke to her, urging her to surrender. It tried to take over her body, filling her with urges to destroy and burn everything. But she resists it, reminding herself that she will become the head of the flaming family. She refuses to give in. The next day, she trains intensely. She defeats Leonard with overwhelming force, nearly striking him even after he's down, but she manages to stop herself. Then she fights Sophie, who battles barehanded. Even Sophie admits defeat. Finally, she faces Blade. But before the fight even begins, Ernest starts seeing flames and suddenly drops her sword. She collapses. Blade catches her and rushes her to the infirmary. The doctor explains she can treat injuries and illnesses, even near death, but curses and spells are beyond her ability. Ernest wakes up, panicked, asking if she did something terrible. Blade reassures her she simply passed out, though he jokes that carrying her was the awful part, making her blush again. As they walk back, he supports her, but she pulls away when others are around. Still, when he says she can lean on him because they're friends, she quietly asks him not to tell anyone what he heard. That night, Blade secretly accesses the Academy's records. He discovers the truth. Ernest's sword is a demon sword called Asmodeus. The next day, Blade asks Ernest to talk privately. She assumes he's trying to threaten her or take her position. But Blade bluntly says he's concerned about her. Then he reveals he knows the secret of her sword. That evening, they meet at a high rooftop. Blade explains that the sword has its own will and grants immense power, but she doesn't fully control it. Ernest reveals her past. When she was 6, she touched the cursed sword, and it tried to possess her, filling her with bloodlust and destruction. She's been suppressing it ever since, but she can still hear its voice. Blade tells her the only way to overcome it is to dominate it completely. She's afraid if she fails, she could become a monster. But Blade assures her, even if that happens, he'll stop her. He asks if she doubts him. She remembers the power he showed and admits she believes in him. That night, they go to the training field. Ernest challenges the sword directly, declaring she will overcome it. Blade stands by her side, trusting her completely. She enters a separate dimension, where she meets the demon Asmodeus. The demon declares itself as pure fire and destruction. A fierce battle begins. At one point, she starts to lose control, but Blade's presence pulls her back. Realizing she's not alone, she fights with everything she has for her pride. Suddenly, she returns, collapsing into Blade's arms, completely exhausted and without her clothes, but safe. Blade gently holds her. She opens her eyes and smiles. She succeeded. The next day, the entire academy is shocked. Ernest appears different, gentler, calmer, and even more beautiful than before. A new version of her has been born. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a sweet comment. I'll pin the best one. Thanks for watching.